Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of Unstoppable Success. I'm your host, Jaclyn Strominger, and on this podcast, we hear from amazing leaders, influential professionals, who are basically sharing their tips, their tricks, their insights on having unstoppable success and great leadership. And today, I am so excited to introduce all of you to Dr. Bobby Shelton, although I'm sure he doesn't want me to say doctor too many times. So I won't. That's the only time. So Bobby is someone who I know truly understands that true success is not just about what you build on the outside. It's about what you become on the inside. And it starts there. As high achieving leaders, it's easy to look successful while privately feeling drained, disconnected, and or off course. And Bobby helps high achieving professionals rebuild the intentional foundation that lasting success requires: discipline, clarity, health, resilience, and peace. He is the author of Easy Hard versus Hard Hard. He's the host of Self Leadership Lab podcast and holds a Doctor of Strategic Leadership. Through coaching, speaking, and transformational content, Bobby helps leaders close the gap between who they appear to be and who they know they are capable of becoming. This conversation is going to be incredibly powerful. It's going to be a reminder that unstoppable success begins with self-leadership, because you can lead a business, a team, a family, or a movement. You have to be able to lead yourself. So welcome, Bobby. And I do have to say, what I'm so excited about it, we share the same alma mater.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what got us together, was the Carnegie Mellon connection. So, no, I'm super happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Like I told you before we started recording, I've been looking forward to this all week because I think we're going to have an engaging conversation. And I like the whole unstoppable piece, because once we develop self-leadership in our lives, we do become unstoppable, and we remove all the self-doubt, all the anxiety, everything that's holding us back. I think it all starts within. And all leadership, there's a lot of great leadership theories out there, and I'm not proposing one over the other, but the self-leadership theory is where I focus most of my research on, because it's what I needed to get myself out of a hole that I had dug myself. As you can see, the common theme here: me, not in a selfish way, but I was my own obstacle for so many years, and removing the obstacle of myself and reinventing myself was the way that I started seeing success and gaining peace and tranquility in my life.
So I think so many people have that same thing. Like we have to learn to lead ourselves first, but we're not taught that. I mean, I talk about being the CEO of you, right?
Yeah, I mean, all the leadership text is basically managerial text, right? It's like dealing with people, or dealing with profits, dealing with everything other than yourself. But really, you are the instrument, right? I went to CMU, but I was a tuba major, so I know a lot about music. And it doesn't matter how good you are if the instrument you're playing is trash, right? So we don't spend time focusing on ourselves. And so therefore, how do we show up for others? How do we know what our, as coaches, we say values, vision, whatever word you want to put on it. How do we know what those are if we don't take time to work on that element of our lives and really sit back and develop? And often in society today, Jaclyn, I'm seeing so much of us outsourcing our soul. It's to the news, social media. It could be a sport. It could be whatever. We fall into line with what society tells us we should do. Another thing we were talking about is all the things people tell you should do. Well, right. You should be yourself, because if you're doing something that's not you, inherently you lose that self-leadership, and and I hope no one gets to where I did. I got to a point where I didn't know who I was. I didn't like myself. I didn't love myself. And I was completely lost, because I never once took a second to think, what does Bobby want?
So I think there's a lot of people out there that have that same, I'm going to call it syndrome of doing like the told syndrome, right? If you want to put a label on it. Oh, we're told to do this. You're told to do that. And so few of us or we get to the point in our lives so much later when we realize, I want to do what I love. I want to do what is, fits my soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that just is because, we have expectations, right? People have expectations of us, and then we adopt those as expectations for ourselves. But at the end of the day, I have no idea what you're thinking. I mean, you may say, hey, good job, Bobby. I'm proud of you, this, that, or the other. But I have no clue what you want. So why would I try to serve and please you all the time? It could be your parents, it could be anyone in your life. If you really step back and say, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? One of the things I've been playing around with lately is building your personal standards. What are your non-negotiables on how you live your life? Once you identify those, like maybe you don't need the car. Maybe you don't need this X amount in your bank account. Maybe what's happy to you is taking a walk every day with your dogs for 2 hours. Maybe it's fly fishing every day. I don't know what it is, but you can build your life around that. And the real question comes down to, are we living our lives? Or are we just existing in the lives that others want us to live? And that is so, to me, I know so many people talk about it, but it is so groundbreaking in
Right.
making progress and becoming unstoppable.
So I think I've shared this before, and I'll share it again if those of you haven't heard it. But I mean, that was actually part of it was me. Like, but I left Carnegie Mellon with this massive, massive like focus. I'm going into this industry. I want to go here. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what I
Yeah.
was doing. Like I forgot. I wasn't doing that. And it was like, oh, you're on that hamster wheel. And I would say like that is the one thing if and is getting off the hamster wheel and knowing that we are not just existing, we are living, we're thriving. So how do you do that? How did you do it, and how do you help people do that?
Yeah, so it took a while. It took a lot of failed attempts. So you mentioned in the bio, I wrote a book called The Easy Hard versus Hard Hard. And that was me, the way I had to wrap my brain around what I was doing. So easy hard is working for the approval of others, and hard is doing the work that matters to you. And that separating line, because you said earlier you left school and you had all these things you wanted to do, but eventually you forgot about them. Well, because you probably thought about them for a long time, right? But you felt guilty because you weren't doing them, or you felt guilty because you started doing them and you're like, but I have this job now. I have these expectations of others. And so really what it took was me sitting down one day and saying to myself, what do I want to do? What did I want to do? And it really was pretty simple for me. It's like, I want to be a nice guy. I want to make people's lives better. And I realized that maybe I was doing that, but probably not to the extent I could. I don't know if you know the two greatest commandments in the Bible. It says, love the Lord your God, treat your neighbor as yourself. Well, I found that I was not only making myself my God, but I didn't like or love myself. So how could I like or love other people? And what I tell people now, the simplest first step you can take is, what do you think about when you have nothing to think about? And I know that sounds kind of stupid, but when you're right before you're going to sleep, if you think about your aspirations or things that you want to do or things that you've been putting off forever, most likely that's what you want to be doing. Now, I'm not a burn the boats kind of guy. If you wake up one day and let's just say you're a surgeon or something like that, and you're like, I don't want to do surgery anymore. I'm not saying stop being a surgeon. What I'm saying is be more of what you can be where you are right now, because change is not a switch. It's a dial. So you have to do it gradually and start practicing the things you want to do in the place you're at, because what a better way. Like you and I are both in the coaching arena. So many coaches want to just quit their job and start coaching. Well, that's great if that's what you can do, but what opportunities are you missing coaching where you are right now? Observe people, ask questions, learn the way they think, learn what bugs them, because eventually those are going to become your clients. And so again, when you find what you want to do, here's the caution stamp for everyone.
Right.
It may take a little bit of time, but don't worry about it, because you're going to feel more fulfilled. You're not going to wake up every day and say, oh, I have to go to work. You're going to say, oh, I get to go to work. And what can I learn today that I didn't know before? What can I observe? What feelings, what emotions, what like common connection can I have to get to where I want to be?
And I think that's, it's such a key thing, like and I'll just say, how many times have you heard, and people have said it thousands and thousands of times, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? But it takes us so long to either understand that or get to that point for some of us. Or you might wake up, and I think this is the other key thing. You might wake up one day and say, you know what, I have loved doing this, but I don't love it anymore. I need to change. And we have to remind ourselves that that's okay. And then the other thing that I want to mention, as I was sharing my story, you said, I may have forgotten or whatever. One of the other key things for me was the outside people that said to me, "Oh, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that." And when actuality, I wasn't feeling strong enough to say, "Yeah, I do. Go take a hike. I do need to go and do this."
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go.
No, I really hate that saying, if you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Because how many people do you talk to that would say that's true for them? I mean, I can think of 2 people in my life who truly love their job, but it's not the job they love. It's the way that they can interact with the job. So often we have these titles and we have these expectations for ourselves, and that's not who we are. You said earlier, I don't like to be called Dr. Shelton, because I'm not. I am that. I earned that, but I'm just Bobby. And the reason I don't like it is because when I started my doctoral journey, I did it because I thought I would like myself if I was this. Well, the day my diploma came, I opened the garage door and it was a box, and it just fell in, and it was in like a pizza box. It wasn't even one of those nice folios that those padded things. It was just in a box. And on the box, it said, "You did it." Okay. So you spend all this time and energy and you get a box in a garage, but you know what? I love that so much, because that piece of paper is not me. That piece of paper helped develop me to be what I am. But if that's how I see myself in the world, and if that's where I think I'm going to get my happiness, where another thing is like, find your bliss, follow your passion. Well, follow your passion, but be reasonable about it, because you could be a janitor and be fulfilled. You could be the CEO of a company and be completely miserable. But from the world's perspective, which one do they value most? I would say, who cares? What do you value most? And go after it at all costs. And then work becomes a lab, a playground, a place where you can develop yourself along the way.
And I think that's so important. And no matter where you are, whether you're the janitor or the CEO, you have to want to go there and be there and understand that when you go home at night and you put your head on the pillow, you're not cringing or being upset. But it's aligned with who you are, right? It's aligned with you as a person. And I think that's the part where, and I would say that a lot of people get caught up is sometimes they'll get caught up in the title, or they'll get caught up in wanting to get to that next step. But what does that next step bring? Like, how does that actually align with what actually fills their cup?
Yeah. And I use the janitor as an example, because a janitor gets to impact so many people's lives, where a CEO goes into an office, they're ushered in, ushered out, given the red carpet treatment, all this, but they don't get to connect with the people. But if you're a people person and you want to help and build people, maybe the janitor is a better role for you. Now, I'm not giving career advice here, folks. I'm using this as an example. But at the end of the day, it's like, I love what you said about when you go to sleep, because that's one of the things I found. When I used to put my head on the pillow, I would say one of 2 things: I'm wasting my life, or if I don't wake up tomorrow, I'm okay with it because I'm so miserable. That's a terrible place to be. And Jaclyn, I thought that was normal until one day I told my wife this, and she goes, "Bobby, you need help. This is not right at all. You should not be." I mean, think about it. We have a manual for everything. I'm sure anything in your office right now, appliances you buy, cars, everything has a manual, but there's no manual for ourselves and how we interact and live with ourselves every single day. So what I propose to people when I work with people is build the manual for yourself, build what's important to you, and then protect that. Some things are out of your control. I'm really big into Stoic philosophy and what you can control and what you can't control. You'll find out that, you get 2 sheets of paper, what you can control is going to have very little on it. What you can is on the other.
Right.
Focus on what you can control. And the two things you can control are your thoughts and your happiness and your actions. So your thoughts, happiness, same thing, but your actions. So build that manual and then follow it. And I think that's the recipe to success. I know it sounds super simplistic, but most things worth pursuing are simplistic, right?
No, it simple is, when you try to overcomplicate things, it gets muddy. But knowing, controlling your thoughts, God, I feel like it is truly like the number one thing you can do for success. And think about all the books. This is, name the book, whether it's, I'm reading part of, the 5 a.m. Club. Maybe it's, and I've got the other one that's over there, Success Principles by Jack Canfield. It's, the Energy Bus. Name all these great books. There's hundreds, right? Hundreds of books, right? Think and Grow Rich, right? All of those things, right? Are all, what does it start with? Our brains, our minds, and our thoughts, right? We need to control those to have success.
Yeah. And the brain is such a powerful computer. And, Think and Grow Rich, all the books that you named, they all talk about controlling your thinking. But I'm going to take it a step further. And I think some of these miss the mark on this. You actually have to believe what you're saying, because take your and my example. We both left school. We had these high ambitions and things that we wanted to do, but we might have thought they weren't possible. We didn't believe they were possible, but we thought, hey, we're going to get in this corporate environment and we're going to work 14, 16, 20-hour days and it's going to become possible. Well, we believed that, but we didn't believe in ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so thoughts, so manifestation, that's one thing that I really love. Like if I believe it and I talk it enough, it's going to come. Well, you've got to take some action about that. But you got to believe it, because if you believe you can make a change, like the turning point for me was I was sitting in a chair and I just put my 8th friend in the ground from suicide. I was devastated and I was in a depression like I never felt in my body before. And I was a pretty depressed dude for a while. And I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to stand up until I give myself permission to like myself again. Not like myself again, just the permission to start that journey. And so I'm sitting there and I knew, because I've read all the science, I did all the research behind how the brain works and all this stuff. I knew I couldn't do that if I didn't believe it. It took me an hour and a half, Jaclyn, to stand up. And it was so ironic, or divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. About 15 minutes after that, a friend of mine in California calls me. I say California because this is relevant to the story, but he called me. He said, Bobby, how are you doing? And for the first time in my life that I remembered, I answered that question truthfully. I said, I'm not well. I don't know how I can become well, but I know that I will be well. And this friend of mine happened to know a guy in Maryland, which is just right across the river from me. And he said, go talk to this guy. And this guy was a successful physician, top of his class in oncology, top of the, in the country. He was one of the best, dealing with the same thing. And you know what he said? He said, I knew all these things, but I didn't believe they could be true to me. And that was the stepping stone that he started taking. And that just clicked for me. It was like, yeah, I don't believe it. I don't believe that I can make these changes. But once I did, it's like, I think I can. What's right. That little trade story or whatever? Right. Yeah. It's so valuable. And once I made that shift, boom, it was like the floodgates opened for me and possibilities started. And it became a journey where I wasn't well all the time, but I was okay not being well, because I was always being like sometimes we get so caught in our thoughts and what we haven't done and how, depressed or anxious we are about the future, that we forget who we are and we don't be. We're just human doings. Mm-hmm. But right. We don't say that, right? We say human beings. In fact, when we talk to people on the street, we say, how are you doing? For a while, I played around with asking people, how are you being? I got too many weird looks and too many weird answers, so I've cut that out. But think of the power if you said that to yourself every day. Who am I being?
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You're sharing this, and I can't begin to tell you, like, there's so many people that I've connected with and people that I know and from different parts. It's true. You have to believe. Belief starts. and you have to believe it in your heart. And sometimes, and I'm curious your thoughts. I mean, things that I have shared is sometimes you have to keep repeating it to yourself over and over and over again until your brain truly believes it as well you believe it. Like it, I believe that belief doesn't happen overnight.
Oh yeah, no. And we talk to ourselves all the time, whether consciously or subconsciously, we're always saying something to ourselves. So I challenge everyone, what's your self-talk like? Is it positive or is it negative? If it's negative, start treating yourself like a friend. The same thing you're thinking about. Think if it was me saying this on the street or over coffee, would you say, "Oh, Bobby, you're crap. You're not ever going to amount to anything. You're worthless. You don't do anything right." We always go to the extremes in our mind because remember, another thing about the mind is it's there to protect us. So the more we live in these patterns where we full of self-doubt or full of self-doubt, easy for me to say, and full of anxiety, then our brain's like, well, he needs to be in this state because that's where he feels safe or she feels safe. So once you change that approach and you start talking positively to yourself, and I'm with you, repeating it, I got to the point where I had to say what was going on in my head out loud, not only so I could actually hear it, but so my wife or others could hear it. And it was so vile and disgusting. If my mom was here right now, I wouldn't say the words sometimes that were going through my head to me about me. But when I changed that narrative, and it's funny, like you could like spill cat food or something really stupid in your life and just go to town on yourself. Now, when I do something like that, sometimes I laugh because I was like 6 or 7 years ago, I could have ruined my entire day. I could have ruined my wife's day. I could have ruined everybody's day around me over spilt cat food. Maybe that's a new thing. Instead of spilled milk, spilled cat food. I don't know.
Food, right. Right. But it's true. And it's amazing how one thought can change your entire day, good or bad. And when it's at somebody else's, whether they responded or did not respond, we have to almost like stop and think, like, you send the text, right? Think about this, right? You send the text to somebody and they don't respond. And you're like, oh my God, they didn't respond. What's happening? Like my life is like, it's going to fall apart. Or like, what if they're really mad at me? What if they're really upset that I didn't show up? Or maybe they're you can spiral yourself because you're all of a sudden you're telling yourself something, but then you could smack yourself in the face and say, okay, come on. Like everybody has busy lives. Do you respond to everything right? I mean, like change the thought. Change that.
Yeah, we're so unreasonable with ourselves. And that's one thing I'd like to really, I'd like to understand more. Why are we so hard on ourselves, but so compassionate to others? Someone told me one time is like, who do you spend the most time with? It's yourself. So why not treat yourself as your best friend? Encourage yourself. I like to tell people to bathe themselves in positivity. And I know you and I have talked about this earlier. If there's anything in your life that causes stress or anxiety, cut it out of your lives. If anything makes you unreasonably mad or upset, you don't need it in your life. Switch the narrative immediately, whether it's actual external, like let's say you're listening to something on the radio while you're driving around, get you upset, change the channel. Do people listen to channels anymore? Or change,
right.
Hit fast forward on your, hit next on your, whatever you use.
But change the music on the Spotify or whatever it is. I mean, change it. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't dwell in that state, but also often we think we need to. I mean, how often do you go to anything, a dinner, cocktail party, whatever you go to, and people always talk about how miserable they are? How I can't stand it, but I used to be that guy. So I'm pointing the finger back at me. If you go to a place, show up. Be energetic, be positive, because a little bit of light in a very dark situation will do so good. So you need to do it both to others, but you need to more importantly do it for yourself, because everything that we think about transcends to how we act, how we behave, and really how successful or unsuccessful we're going to be in this world.
Right. And listeners, we're talking about this, the thoughts. It's like for you to have unstoppable success, it really does come down to something so simple as the way you think, and understand and remember that business life, it's not, your business success is not a linear up line, right? Think of, yes, maybe over time, like again, I've shared this example with the stock market, right? The stock market, if you look at it from, 5 years ago to now, yeah, it might look like a straight line, but holy crap. I mean, yesterday tanked. I mean, right? It's up and down, up and down. So is life. So what's your thought? If your thoughts can stay positive and that can stay level or up, everything else can stay up and keep going. And you're going to need that in your business and in life to have that positivity to keep you going for when you got those days where the business does something lower, or like the stock market tanks and you're like, oh my God, there goes my 401k or whatever it is, right? But that's part of life, right? Like
that compounding interest, like you're talking about in money, is the same with your thoughts and your behaviors. The more you put into something, the more it's going to come back. And, I didn't talk about this in my whole journey, but part of my journey, my comeback tour, my Bobby 2.0, was 6 years ago, I weighed 354 pounds.
Holy
cow. Yeah. So I'm 6'5". So yeah, 354. I stood on a doctor's scale one day and it was 354. And I knew immediately I needed to lose weight. And so I started doing weight. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. And so part of that process is I brought in experts, fitness people to help me along the way. And one of the exercises they told me to do, they said, feel your glutes. Well, I've said this a million times. A 354-pound man is not going to feel their glutes. But I trusted those people and I kept doing the exercises. I kept doing them probably a year and a half. And then one day I'm doing them and I felt the glute for the first time. Okay. Had I not done that for a year and a half, I would have never felt the glute. So the same thing with your thoughts, the same thing with money, the same thing with anything. The more you do it, the more you're going to get, and you're going to get discouraged, right? It's just human behavior that if you don't see results immediately, you're going to get discouraged. But I saw an ad one time, those total gyms, like Chuck Norris, you sell them, Christy Brinkley. Yeah. And I saw this ad one time and it says, in a year from now, you'll be glad you started. Like, what a great promise, right? And that's the promise we can all tell ourselves. If you start today being positive, and maybe it's not 24 hours of the day, maybe it's only like you get 2 hours of positive. Well, you had 0 today. 2 is great. The next day, it might be 2.2, 2.5. And then eventually, you're going to be filled with joy. And that doesn't mean hardships and things don't come into your life, but you're going to look at them more objectively. Like, this is a blip in the radar. This is one bad day of the stock market. This isn't my entire portfolio. I'm still going to be able to retire, all these kind of things.
Right. So a couple things. And you just made me think about this. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to do this. And I think I'm going to probably start it back, and I'll even start putting this out on a YouTube video. But I had a positivity jar. Like every day it was like, I'm feeding the positivity. It's like feed me Seymour, right? Little Shop of Horrors, right? It's like my favorite line of like, feed me Seymour. And it's like feeding, but feed it, like feed the jar, feed yourself, feed your mind. I want to bring something up that you kind of touched on it. But it was something that I was thinking about in our thoughts and positivity, and that's comparison, right? Like, right. Like it's like so evil. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because, again, everybody's journey is their own. So I wanted to get your take on that part of the thought process too, because I've got my own on that, but I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah. I mean, there's that famous saying, comparison is the thief of all joy. And that is so true. We talked about things that people say that we don't like, but I love that. But what does that mean? If you compare yourself to anyone, let's just say it's a CEO of some company that's in your industry, you have no idea what it took for them to get there, because they don't ever tell you the downtimes. They don't tell you the hours that they spent. One of the things that was so inspirational to me was I read like Jeff Bezos or something about like how he built his business. Well, he used to sit in his garage for hours after he worked his 9 to 5 boxing books. And then somebody came and told him, hey, it'll be more comfortable if you get a table and do it. But he was literally sitting on the ground and doing it. But now you look at Jeff Bezos today, I don't know how much he's worth. It's a lot more than me. But if I compared myself to Jeff Bezos, that's a losing battle all the time. But what in Jeff Bezos' path can I adopt or try for myself to gain that success? So maybe comparison to the end result isn't the right idea, but maybe the work ethic or the mentality. I love very successful people, and I know some of them are controversial in the world today, but if you think about the way they think and then apply that to the way you think, that's the only comparison I think you should ever have.
Right.
And then if you are someone who thinks, oh, I have to compare, well, compare yourself to yourself 5 years ago. The only time I say people to look back is look back to where you were 5 years ago. Like, let's take that glute example again. I can look back a year and a half, couldn't feel the glutes. Well, a year and a half later, I could feel the glutes. So it's, again, that progress. So sometimes you got to look back to see where you're going, but please do not compare yourself. You know, they say instant success takes a lot of time. People forget that takes a lot of time part. They think that like Jeff Bezos just had Amazon overnight. Well, no, it took him years and years and years and a lot of risk. And how many of us are willing to take that risk, you know, personally, financially, whatever it is? But I can tell you this, take that risk on yourself to be a better person. And boy, in a year from now, you'll be glad you did.
Right. That payoff is absolutely exponential.
Yeah. Yeah. Because think if you did something for the very first time and you were great at it, what would the joy be? You know, people used to always say, enjoy the process, not the end result. And I never understood that because I always wanted to know what's next. So I got this certification. I got this degree. Well, what's the next one I can get? What's next? What's next? What's next? And I never got to see the forest for the trees. I was always focused on the end. But once you break it down in the struggle, like a lot of coaches today say, oh, you have to suffer to grow. I hate that too. If you're suffering, you're probably going after the wrong thing. You may need to struggle a little bit, but during the struggle, what can you learn? How can I be a better person? What are the building blocks to my future during this time? Because you learn so much about yourself when you put it under stress and duration. But please don't suffer, because we have enough suffering in the world. You know, work hard at what you want to do and really figure it out. But that, I don't know, that's a diatribe from comparison. But you got me going.
Right, but I think and the reason why I wanted to bring it up is you know, you also said it's like, if something is giving you those negative thoughts, recognize it. You know, like remove yourself from that situation. And I'll give an example that I thought is, you know, seeing and going to award ceremonies, right? And it was, you know, people like, oh my God, I could never be like her. And they would spiral. They would spiral down. Like, she's been up there nonstop. She's always getting the awards. I'm never going to do that. So sometimes it's, if you're always spiraling, number one, recognize that, see it. And then, okay, well, maybe during that time of the conference that you are, remove yourself and write your own reward or award for yourself, and read that and saying, oh my God, here's Bobby. He's coming up on stage and he's like, you know, give yourself the award that you want versus the comparison versus the doubt, you know, and remove yourself. You will be able to sit in that room eventually. But also then celebrate and be able to celebrate other people, because you're now training your brain to celebrate where you're going and not comparing.
Man, I like that personal reward, because an external reward is objective. I mean, look at the Oscars, look at whatever. There's always somebody who wins something that the world is like, wow, why did this person win? Well, one, you have no control. You don't vote. You don't know what's in the minds in the hearts of the judges. But that's an external reward. What if you did your best and you go to sleep at night happy with what you did? I mean, that is the ultimate reward, right? It doesn't matter who gives you a piece of paper or a medal, medallion, whatever, trophy. It doesn't really matter, because that moment's fleeting. But when you internalize your reward, then it's forever. It's intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. what drives you that keeps you going, like you yourself, or is it for an award? And eventually you'll probably, if you do your little theory, I bet you just won't go to a award ceremony because you're out there doing versus watching someone else get rewarded for something they've done, right? It's like watching sports or playing sports. Which one would you rather do?
Well, when it comes to some of them, I want to watch it, but yeah, but anyway, but yeah, but it's true. It's like I'd want to be doing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus not, right? And it really does matter. Change. All right. So Bobby, I could talk to you for absolutely forever on, and how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, you can get me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. The Self Leadership Lab that you mentioned earlier is my podcast, which you were an esteemed guest on, and which will be coming out soon as well. Also, Easy Hard versus .com that can get you to all my socials. I also am on Substack. Most everything is the Self Leadership Lab on social, so just look that up, and you'll find me.
Awesome. All right. So everybody connect with Bobby. I'm going to put all of that in the show notes. And listeners, please do me the favor and actually make sure that you connect with him, because Bobby is truly amazing. Absolutely. And so you definitely need to be connected with him. And then do me the next favor. Share this episode with a business friend, a colleague, or somebody that you know, because there has been amazing nuggets in this. And it's such a vital part of success. So share this with everybody that you know. And then two other big things: join our community on School for Unstoppable Success. The link is in the show notes. And if you are looking to grow and expand your relationships, we have a brand new Relationship Capital 7-day ROI challenge. That means ROI meaning return on investment. And that's really key to growing your business, yourself, working on those relationships. So join the 7-day challenge and you will see some amazing success. Bobby, thank you for being a great guest. Truly appreciate having you.
Thanks for
And
having me.
it's really like you're going to have to come back. And everybody, listeners, thank you so much for listening. This is the Unstoppable Success Podcast, where we help you have unstoppable success that will lead to help you leap to your greatest success. I'm Jaclyn Strominger, and I want to invite you to join the Unstoppable Success community on School. You can go to Unstoppable Success at school-9143 and join us. In this community, you will get daily tips so that you can be unstoppable, and you'll also connect with other leaders and professionals who are also aiming for their unstoppable success and are there to help you succeed. So join us in the community. We can't wait to see you on School.